Alright, so this is sort of like a review and a tutorial on the HSarmory barrel lapping kits. Shortly explain these laps. They are used to refinish the inside of your barrel. It's not barrel polishing, that's a different thing. Lapping is actually something that is used for real steel guns, and it actually helps with the performance because it removes inconsistencies in the bore and makes everything smooth. So in airsoft guns, some people have done some polishing like in a different way, that they attach some rod on their drill and then run some cloth or some sandpaper even and run it inside the barrel to smoothen out the inner surface. But there's a problem with that, and it is that when you have a drill removing material, that you create these whirls in the barrel, and effectively that's like adding micro rifling in your barrel, and there's no way to guarantee that you're removing perfectly the same amount of material on the whole length of the barrel, so you get actual bore inconsistencies throughout the barrel, so that's not very good. And also, since the abrasive, basically what polishing does, it removes very thin layer of material, and when you do it like this, you end up having scratches going against the direction that the BB is actually going to the barrel. And since because of the hop up, the BB will actually run against, or glide and roll against, the top surface of the barrel. So those scratches might have some bad impact. So what lapping does is, instead of having a swirl kind of polishing, this makes it vertical, or not vertical, but the same direction as the barrel, so then you don't have those effects from the scratching. And also it's guaranteed that you have the same amount of material removed throughout the whole barrel, and the finish will be exactly the same, so that will help performance. And it depends on your barrel. If you already have a really nice barrel, like let's say some Prometheus steel barrel that is very straight, you're not going to have a huge benefit from doing this. But if you want to do everything possible to make your gun shoot really well, it's a good thing to do. And also, this will greatly increase the performance of some cheaper barrels, as long as they're straight and don't have too big faults in them, because this doesn't remove too huge amounts of material. Like if there are some really deep scratches, there is no way to get them off. So what it basically does is it removes the tips of the, well, if you look with microscope the inside of the barrel, it is like full of little mountains and valleys, and what this does, it flattens the tops of the mountains in a way, so then you have effectively a smooth surface for the BB to roll against. So you can get either these, well, there's just 2 of these left, but a 10 pack of these laps from Shapeways, and then use your own lapping compound or diamond compound. I have a set here, different grit. Basically what you do, you start with the roughest one and then go to the finest one, and clean the barrel between each, of course, because you don't want to contaminate your barrel, or if you have some contamination of the high roughness diamond paste in your barrel, and then you try to polish it with the finer ones, the big grit one will ruin it, basically. So you can't use the same lap for different ones. You have to use it only with the one lapping compound. And then another choice, if you're not willing to take all that time to go through all the different grits, you can just get these sort of easier to use pre-embedded laps that have already applied the lapping compound. Right now I don't remember what grit this is, but it's like the universal grit. Like, it gives a nice polish, but not like super mirror polish. But it's harsh enough to really smoothen out the imperfections in the barrel. Then you can use as the rod either a brass rod, or even your cleaning rod, depends on your technique. I will go to those later. Then you can use a plastic rod like an acrylic rod. Then if you can find a POM or nylon rod, but they're difficult to find. Personally, I'm using a carbon fiber rod. Now when this barrel is so short, using these rods there's not going to be a problem. And since this is a stock HSarmory barrel, it's not very tight, so there is really no risk of breaking this rod. There was some discussion about the safety of these carbon fiber rods, that they could splinter and then cut your finger, but I really disagree. But anyway, so the techniques: you can either glue one of these in your rod and then roll it inside and out with this alignment jig, or then you can push it all the way through and then come back through again, then out again, and then through again. But personally, I like the in and out method. It's a lot quicker, but there's a problem with the pre-embedded ones, that they have the lapping compound going all the way even inside the attachment hole, so it might be problematic to glue these rods on them. But I will see how it goes. I will put some I'll try to clean it with some alcohol, the inside of the lap, so then I could glue this on with some super glue. So yeah, now I'm just gonna show basically how this is done. Alright, so I glued this pre-embedded lap on my rod here, and I'm gonna show how this is done. And one thing to note, it's important that you clean the barrel really well first, to make sure that there isn't any contamination that would ruin your finishing here. So as simple as it is, you just install it in your barrel. It's sort of sticky. There we go. And then we can start the process. And then, so that you don't push it too far or completely out. If you're using the method where you go in and out, then you don't want to push it all the way through here, obviously. So you can put some tape around the end of the barrel. Beautiful. I knew something like this would happen. Beautiful. Let's push it out. So now I have the lap glued a little bit better here. So let's try again. You don't necessarily need this alignment jig if you can keep it perfectly straight so that it doesn't rotate as you push it in. So yeah, just keep doing this. For like, if you use the normal ones, something like 100 rounds. If you're a perfectionist, you can put even more, but that way it takes a really long time. So this is basically how this stuff works. It's pretty simple. Then if you use the different lapping compounds, then you just clean the barrel really well between each, and then when you're finished with the finest one, then you just clean your barrel really well again by using like silicone oil and then some alcohol maybe. And then after all that, clean it again with some silicone oil, because you always want to have just a little bit of silicone in your barrel. That might sound crazy, but if you have completely degreased barrel, then you have more friction between the BB and the barrel, and then the residue from all BBs are basically covered with a little bit of wax, and if you have a really high friction barrel, then that wax will build up in your barrel much faster than if you have your barrel really slick with some silicone oil or some other really fine oil. But you don't want your barrel to be like wet, but just run one slightly moist silicone oil soaked paper through your barrel, and then it should be good to go. So now I'm just gonna keep doing this for like maybe 100 times, and then I will clean it and see how well it performs. This barrel is indeed a HSarmory stock barrel with an R hub here, and it has been performing quite nicely already, so I'm not expecting to get a huge improvement here. But if you have a cheap stock Chinese barrel, then you will have a lot more better grooving gains. So that's quite simply how this works, and I will put a link in the description on where to buy these. So thanks for watching. Also, one very important thing to note when you use the in and out method, whenever once in a while you have to take it out and then turn it a little bit so that you're not making any patterns or any cutting patterns in the barrel, because since it's 3D printed, it's not perfectly shaped. So it's nice, of course, but there is some very slight imperfections. So just rotate it slightly between like 10 pushes or so.